from Rock the Docs, and in this video, let's talk color as strategy. We see color everywhere, so it may seem like a simple topic, but color is anything but simple, especially in design fields like technical communication. And if you're wondering what technical writing and design have to do with one another, design principles are a huge part of good technical writing, and color is one of the most powerful tools that we have. Technical communicators don't just arrange text, we design experiences. Color can build trust, guide users through instructions, make documents accessible, and even change meaning across cultures. In this video, I'll explore how color functions in design. We'll look at its role in credibility, cultural interpretation, accessibility, memory, and risk communication. By the end, I hope you'll see color as not decoration, but as strategy. First, let's talk about how color can create or destroy credibility. Color is often the first cue that influences whether users find information trustworthy. A 2011 study tested how people judge websites with identical content but different color schemes, and showed that website color schemes do influence trust. Blue was the clear winner as most trustworthy, while black was the least, with green and red in between. This shows how color can shape a user's first impression before they've read a single word. Think about online banking sites. Most lean heavily on blue. That's not an accident. Blue is associated with trust, stability, and calm. Would you trust a bank's website if it were hot pink with neon green accents? Probably not. But user trust is complicated and context matters. For this video, I chose a black background that lets the colors pop so it ties into my theme and personal branding. Here, black isn't about distrust, it's about bold contrast and creating a stage where color takes the spotlight. For technical communicators, the takeaway is that credibility comes from both color choice and the context in which it's used. Whether it's a doc site, help article, or training manual, if the color scheme feels off, users may doubt the accuracy of the information before they've read a single sentence. So choose wisely. Color also affects how we feel and remember information. A 2013 review of research on color and memory found robust evidence that color enhances memory by increasing attention and emotional arousal. In several experiments, people recognized or recalled color images significantly better than grayscale ones, sometimes by as much as 5 to 10%. Between these two images, which would you recall better? Red, in particular, tends to be remembered more strongly because it evokes high emotional arousal. The result is that documents and visuals using color strategically are more memorable than those relying on plain text alone. In simple terms, we're more likely to remember something if color draws our eye to it in the first place. In Colin Ware's Information Visualization Perception for Design, he explains this from a design perspective. He notes that color is one of the strongest pre-attentive features, meaning our brains register it almost instantly. Where is your eye drawn in this image? Consistently applied colors help users recognize categories quickly, and those associations support recall over time. For example, using the same shade of blue for troubleshooting tips across a manual or knowledge base makes those sections easier to find and remember. For technical communicators, this has practical implications. Instructional guides, onboarding materials, and infographics are far more effective when color is used to emphasize important categories or steps. A reader may not recall every word, but they're more likely to remember that the blue section contained troubleshooting information or that red was consistently used to mark warnings. Color can also communicate danger or urgency, sometimes too well. During the 2014 Ebola outbreak, maps flooded with deep red created an overwhelming sense of danger. While that might seem effective, overuse of alarm colors can actually backfire, creating panic or making users tune out. Wellhausen's analysis of New York Times Ebola infographics shows how this works in practice. She found that warm colors like red and orange amplified the sense of danger, while cooler colors could have reduced fear. Because these visuals relied heavily on color with little explanation, they functioned as high-context communication, leaving audiences to interpret the message on their own. For non-experts, this often meant heightened anxiety. For technical communicators, the lesson is clear. Color choices don't just present risk, they shape how it's perceived. A hazard that needs caution might appear catastrophic if marked in bright red, while a genuine emergency might not stand out enough if the colors are too muted. To communicate risk effectively, color has to be paired with context, explanation, and clear, consistent visual order. Next, let's look at how color works beyond borders, both across cultures and in designing for accessibility, so everyone is getting the right message. Here's where things get complicated. Color doesn't mean the same thing everywhere. Research on designing for multicultural audiences reminds us that ethnocentric color choices can unintentionally alienate global readers. For example, in the US, white often symbolizes purity, while in many Asian cultures, white is associated with mourning. Red signals danger or urgency in Western contexts, but in China, it represents good fortune and celebration. Green suggests health and growth in North America, but in some Middle Eastern countries, it carries deep religious significance. On top of cultural differences, we also need to think about accessibility. Around 8% of men and 0.5% of women have some form of color vision deficiency. If information relies only on color cues, many users may not be able to interpret the message. For technical communicators, this is especially important when designing instructional materials or safety guides. The image on the right is shown through the eyes of someone with red-green color blindness. Using color alone, these cues would be difficult or impossible to distinguish. The solution is to combine color with additional signals. Use redundant cues, pair color with text labels, icons, or patterns so meaning isn't lost. Accessibility and cultural awareness go hand in hand. Both remind us there's no single, universally understood meaning for color. We have to design with our full audience in mind. To recap, we've seen how color shapes design in technical communication in powerful ways. It establishes credibility, influencing whether users trust information at first glance. It strengthens memory by attracting attention and creating consistent cues that support recall. It shapes how we perceive risk, clarifying hazards, or amplifying fear depending on how it's used. And it carries cultural meanings and must be designed for accessibility so content works for everyone. Color may seem simple, but it influences every part of the user experience. As designers, our choices in color design are not about aesthetics alone. They're about strategy, usability, and inclusion. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to keep the design discussion going, connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you want more videos on design and technical communication, you can follow along on my YouTube channel, Rock the Docs.